Welcome. The theme of our Golu this year is Thiruvilayadal, the divine play of Shiva. Thiruvilayadal is a collection of stories where the Lord plays different roles to remove grief and instill happiness in his devotees. This magnificent work in Tamil was compiled by Param Jyoti Munivar, a great Shiva Bhaktar of the 17th century, and was originally narrated by sage Agasthyar. Thiruvilayadal consists of 64 stories. We have displayed a few stories in our Golu. Story of Indra. When Indra failed to respect his guru Brihaspati, he began to grow weaker. Indraloka was losing its charm and prosperity. Realizing his mistake, Indra came to earth and wandered around Kadambavanam, seeking to atone for his sins. He saw a Shivalinga and a lotus pond. As he bathed in the pond, each of the lotus flowers turned gold as he regained powers. In gratitude, he cleared the forest and alongside Vishwakarma the architect constructed a sanctum for Shiva. Airavatam, the white elephant. When Devaloka was celebrating triumph over the Asuras, sage Durvasa gifted a garland to Indra. Indra in turn put it on Airavata, the white elephant. A bee emerged from the flower and attacked Airavata, who threw the garland onto the ground and trampled it. An enraged Durvasa cursed him to turn black and wild and was sent to roam the earth. On reaching Kadambavanam, he bathed in the pond, prayed to Shiva and regained his white color.
Origin of Madurai. After many centuries, Dhananjaya spotted the temple built by Indra. Kulashekara Pandya, on the advice of its minister Dhananjaya, cleared the forest and reconstructed the temple. He renovated the Porthamarai Kolam, or the Golden Lotus Tank, and created a beautiful city. He called on Lord Somasundarar to shower the city with Amudam, and hence this place came to be known as Maduranagaram or Madurai. Goddess Uma Devi. Wishing for a child, King Malayadwajan and Queen Kanchanamalai performed Putra Kameshti Yagam. From the fire came a beautiful 3-year-old Tadatagai or Meenakshi. She learned the Vedas, the Shastras, mastered horse riding and trained in the art of war. She was crowned the queen and went on to conquer the 3 worlds. But on reaching Kailasam, she saw Shiva Peruman and they fell in love. The city of Madurai celebrated the celestial wedding of goddess Meenakshi and Lord Sundareshwarar. Meenakshi arranged a grand feast for the wedding. Proud of her stature, she told Shiva that it was a shame there were so few guests from his side to enjoy the meals. As part of his divine play, Shiva summoned Gundodaran, who devoured all the food, the vegetables, the sweets, utensils even, and still complained of hunger. A worried Devi requested the Lord to come to her rescue. He called on Ganga to flow through Madurai. Gundodaran blocked the river with his hands to quench his thirst, and thus the river acquired the name Vaigai.
Stone elephant. The Lord took form of a Siddhar and enthralled the people of Madurai with his powers. He gave old men their youth, brought back the dead. He gave the blind sight and gave the dumb the power to sing. The king of Madurai, Abhisheka Pandian, was very eager to meet him. On Thai Pongal, he met the Siddhar outside the temple. Seeking to test him, the king asked if the Siddhar could make the stone elephant on the temple pillar eat sugarcane. With a wave of his hand, the elephant statue stretched his trunk out and pulled the sugar cane towards him to chew it. The king understood that the Siddhar was none other than the Lord, and this was one of his Thiruvilayadal.
Natarajar's dance pose. Rajashekara Pandian, a master of over 63 skills, had not learned to dance. He believed Lord Nataraja to be the unparalleled dancer. However, his ministers convinced him to learn Bharatanatyam in pursuit of God's will. Learning the Natya Shastra physically exhausted him. This made him empathize with the Lord, who eternally had his left leg lifted up in dance. After many sleepless nights spent worrying, he told the Lord that he would not dance again unless the Lord rested his left leg to the ground. The next morning, the king was overjoyed on seeing Nataraja's right leg raised instead. We see this image of the Lord at Veliyambalam Mandapam even today.
Varaguna Pandey. Varaguna Pandey, while returning from hunting one night, accidentally rides over a man and kills him. Haunted by the Brahmahatti, sin of killing, he sought to atone for his sins by building many temples, giving charity, and performing many good deeds. Yet he finds no peace. One night, he hears a divine calling. The Chola king will try to invade your kingdom. Fight him and chase him to the border of Thiruvilayadal. Once you enter the temple, your sins will vanish. As predicted, a war was waged. Chola king fled and Varaguna reached the temple. As he entered through the eastern gate, the Brahmahatti stayed outside, waiting for him to return, as it could not enter the temple. As instructed by the Lord, the king worshipped him and left through the western gate. It is said that the Brahmahatti still waits at the entrance of the closed eastern gate. The king's bhakti grew so strong, he had the Shivaloga Darshanam, abode of his Lord Shiva, Parvati, Pullayar and Muruga.
Firewood Seller. The famous musician Hemananda Bhagavatar had proved his musical excellence all over India. Soaring with pride, he visited Madurai to challenge the court musician Banabhattar. Banabhattar was very nervous, feeling the weight of the city's reputation on his shoulders. Lord Shiva now plays the role of a firewood seller. After a tired day's work, he sat and relaxed under a tree near the guest house of Bhagavatar and started singing.
நான் அசைந்தால் அசையும் அகிலமெல்லாமே.
His song was so divine and so melodious that Bhagavatar felt the breath, the soul of the universe in his verses. Bhagavatar went to meet the wood seller, who said that he was a servant in Banabhattar's house. Banabhattar regarded him unfit to learn music. Hearing this, Bhagavatar knew for a fact that he would be no match for this competition and silently left the city. Tamar Sangam. The 48 different powers of Saraswati were born as 48 different poets across the country. They all travelled to Madurai and formed the Tamar Sangam. To judge the quality of the poets, the Lord granted them a golden plank 1 foot by 1 foot. The feature of this plank was that it grew to accommodate the poets on recognizing their skill. As each poet performed, the plank grew to accommodate him. Eventually, all 48 poets, including Nakirar, Banabhattar and Kabilar, were seated.
Durer Me One spring, the famous king Shenbaga Pandey was in his garden with his queen, and was swayed by the sweet fragrance of her tresses. This set him wondering if the hair of a woman was naturally fragrant or was specially scented with flowers or perfumes. This was posed as a question in his court, with 1,000 gold coins offered as prize money. Dharmi, a poor Brahmin, was desperate for the money.
பார்க்க கூடாதது பசியும் பஞ்சமும், பார்த்து ரசிப்பது கலையும் அழகும், கலையைச் சிறந்தது இலிசை நாடகம், நாடகம் என்பது நடிப்பும் பாட்டும், பாட்டுக்கு நாரதன், வீணைக்கு வாணி, அழகுக்கு முருகன், சொல்லுக்கு அகத்தியன், வில்லுக்கு விஜயன், ஆசைக்கு நீ, அறிவுக்கு நான். ஐயா எனக்கு தெரிஞ்சது அவ்வளவுதான்.
The Lord, in the form of a wise poet, gave Dharmi a poem supporting the claim that the hair of a woman bore natural fragrance. At the court, a senior poet, Nakirar, denied this. Shiva, as a poet, was called into the court and a wordy argument followed.
பிறப்பிலிருந்தே வெறும் கூந்தலுக்கு இயற்கையில் மனம் உண்டு என்பதை ஒரு காலம் ஒப்புக்கொள்ள முடியாது. உத்தம ஜாதி பெண்களுக்கு கூட இயற்கையில் கூந்தலில் மனம் கிடையாது. கற்பு கரசிகளாய் விளங்கும் பெண்களுக்கு கூட செயற்கையில் என்று இயற்கையில் கூந்தலுக்கு மனம் ஒரு காலம் இருக்க முடியாது. நான் அன்றாடம் வழிபடும் ஈசனுக்கு இடப்பக்கம் அமர்ந்திருக்கிறாளே அன்னை மலைமகள் உமையவள், அவளுக்கும் அதே விதிப்படித்தான். உண்மையாக உண்மையாக நிச்சயமாக நிச்சயமாக உனது தமிழின் மீது ஆணையாக, எனது தமிழ் புலமை மீது ஆணையாக. நக்கீரா, நன்றாக என்னை பார். நான் எழுதிய தமிழ் பாட்டு குற்றமா? ஆண்டவா, புலவரே, நீரே முக்கண் முதல்வனாயும் ஆகுக. உமது நெற்றியில் ஒரு கண் காட்டிய போதிலும், உமது உடம்பெல்லாம் கண்ணாக்கி துட்ட போதிலும் குற்றம் குற்றமே. நெற்றிக்கண் திறப்பினும் குற்றம் குற்றமே.
In a bout of anger, the Lord burned him down. He was later revived from the lotus pond and was forgiven.
Bangle Seller. In the Dharagavanam ashram, the rishis and their wives performed daily rituals. These women believed themselves to be the most chaste women in the world. Lord Shiva took the form of a young, handsome Bhikshadana and came to the ashram seeking alms. Seeing the women so captivated by his enchanting looks, the rishis cursed their wives, dooming them to the earth until touched by Lord Sundarar. These women were born into merchant families in Madurai. They grew up as young, beautiful maidens. To help their cause, the Lord took the form of a bangle seller. As he deftly slipped the bangles into their hands one by one, they achieved salvation by his touch. Manikya Vassakara. Vadavuran was a youthful and highly knowledgeable Shiva Bhaktar. He was made the chief minister to the Pandya king. The king had tasked him once to acquire fine horses from foreign lands. He was entrusted with a lot of money from the treasury and was sent to the port to buy them. On his journey, he met a guru who was none other than the Lord himself and felt spiritually elevated. He sang the hymn Thiruvilayadal and therefore was called Manikya Vassakara by his guru. He began to spend all the money in charitable work and building temples and forgot the purpose of his journey. When the king summoned him, he lied, saying that the horses had been bought and would arrive shortly. Several months passed and the king grew restless. When the king came to know that Manikya Vassakara had spent all the money on temples, he was put to prison. Sundareshwarar now started his play. He called upon Nandi to go to the forest to convert all the foxes into horses. The very next morning, Chieftain Sundarar led a parade of the finest of horses through the streets of Madurai. It was a sight to behold. The king was so impressed, he showered the chief with gifts and ordered the release of Manikya Vassakara. Later that night, all the horses turned back into foxes. The foxes proceeded to kill the horses in the stable and sprinted back into the forest, leaving the place in ruins. The king was furious and sentenced him to a harsher punishment. In response, Lord Shiva ordered the river Vaigai to flood Madurai. She immediately wrecked the bunds and drowned the city. The king then ordered all the citizens of Madurai to help repair the bunds and close the breach. Among them was Vandi. an ardent devotee of Shiva who sold puttu for a living. Vandi worried that she was too old to help out with the repairs. Lord Sundarar then appeared as a young boy and volunteered to do her share of work with puttu as his wage. While everyone out there worked hard, this boy would relax and gobble up puttu. When the king saw this, he caned the boy in a fit of rage. The blow was fed by every living thing around him, including the king himself. The linga in the temple developed a mark where the cane struck. On seeing this, the king realized that this young child was the Lord Shiva himself and apologized. The boy playfully put a handful of sand on the breach and closed it. At once, the flood stopped and the boy vanished.
Coon Pandey. The king of Madurai, Coon Pandey, was an ardent Jain, much to the displeasure of his queens. Sage Jnanasambandar was invited to Madurai to bring back faith into Shaivism. The king suffered from serious illness and fever. The prayers of Jain monks were not helping the king. When Jnanasambandar sang the Devaram and smeared the ashes on the king, his fever started coming down. His hunchback straightened and he became very handsome. Coon Pandey became Sundara Pandey. In a challenge, Jnanasambandar and the Jain monks threw mantras written on fresh palm leaves into fire. Only the leaves written by Sambandar were unaffected. Similarly, the palm leaves were dropped into the swirling streams of Vaigai. As the leaves of the Jain monks drowned, Sambandar's leaf, emblazoned with the Devaram, not only floated but moved upstream. The king was very impressed and renewed his faith in Shiva. Thus, Shaivism was once again established in Madurai.
Witness to a wedding. A trader from Madurai wanted to get his daughter and his nephew wed. However, he passed away, leaving her orphaned. When his nephew came to visit the village to pay respects, the villagers insisted he marry the girl and take her to his home in Madurai. On their journey, they stopped in the village of Tirupurambiyam where Jnanasambandar was visiting. They stayed overnight in a mandapam. Unfortunately, a snake bit the young man and he died. The girl began to lament her ill fortune and narrated the set of incidents to Sambandar. Sympathizing with her, he brought back the dead man to life with his powers. He insisted that the man marry her right there with the Shivalinga under the Vanni tree and the well bearing witness. On reaching Madurai, the man's first wife was furious. She yelled at her, screaming that the wedding was not legal as there was no witness. The girl pleaded with Lord Sundara to prove the legitimacy of the marriage. To everybody's astonishment, the Vanni tree, the Shivalinga and the well appeared on the northeast corner of the Meenakshi temple the very next day. These can be seen even today.
All these stories exhibit the unbound mercy and love the Lord shows to his devotees. The Thiruvilayadal stories are depicted as sculptures on the walls around the sanctum of Meenakshi temple. Next time you visit the Meenakshi temple, make sure you take in the rich stories told by the halls and walls.
Thank you for visiting our Golu. We'll see you next year.
Thank you.